YouTube, Instagram, Dunkin' Donuts, Sony. What do all of these companies have in common? And most importantly, what do they have to do with classroom setup? Let me explain. When I first started teaching 11 years ago, decorating my classroom, amongst other things, was a very daunting task for me. I would then shut down and it would be empty and sterile, and then I'd get in trouble by my principal because it looked that way, or then I would throw everything at it and it would be very chaotic and messy and disjointed and none of the elements added to my instruction in any way. And if anything, it was very distracting to my students. This frustration continued until I learned these psychological tricks that big companies and social medias use to capture our attention. And so with the information I learned there, I went back to Pinterest with a plan, and then it was much easier to deal with. So why model classroom decor after these companies? Just like these companies, teachers must engage an audience. Companies profit by capturing attention, and teachers can enhance learning outcomes by doing the same. Using our physical environment to influence students' moods and attention can facilitate effective instruction. Social media sites spend millions of dollars each year to learn what makes humans tick, ensuring we stay on their platforms longer. One way they do this is through the use of colors. Colors influence perceptions and behavior. In marketing, colors evoke specific emotions. Red induces urgency, while blue creates calmness. Marketers use these associations to boost profits. Teachers can use these strategies to enhance their pedagogy and, as a result, enhance student performance. With this information, I went to Pinterest and looked for borders, bulletin board paper, and intentional splashes of color. I'll get to the intentional part later. But when I looked for those things, I specifically looked for them in the colors blue and yellow. And I did this because a 2010 study found that yellow can be stimulating and uplifting, making it great for areas where creative thinking is needed. A 2003 study discovered that blue environments enhance cognitive performance by promoting calm and focus, ideal for student areas and workspaces. I'm a fan of neon primary colors, so to accent the walls, I use blue and yellow border. Instead of bulletin board paper, I use plastic tablecloths from the dollar store, which was much cheaper, and I chose the color white and gray so that I could have a neutral plain background that I could then layer in pops of color to balance everything out. Earlier, I mentioned intentional splashes of color, and that's a really big thing, to be very intentional about the things on your walls. You can create, like I did, a lot of visual pollution where the students become much too distracted with it, or because there's so much, they just shut down and don't look at any of it. So I make sure that the posters that I have or any decor that I have in my room is very intentional and serves a purpose other than being pretty or other than being cute. They have a functional purpose for it also. Let me explain. I have here classroom norm posters, which are DIY'd. And if you can't draw well, you can commission someone to help you who would enjoy creating them. Or you can, if you have a Promethean board, you can place a piece of paper on top of it and then trace it, or you can digitally create a poster and print them. Pocketful of Primary has a great video about how to make your own posters. I'll link it down below. I have these accountable talk posters. It's eye-catching, and I place it near a high traffic area, which is right where the students face the board, and it sits next to the Promethean board, where I conduct whole and small group instruction, and it allows us to refer to it often because it's in a high traffic area. And anchor charts. I love the smelly markers for the anchor charts, and all of the colors in them match my color scheme, so it works out perfectly. I also love about anchor charts is that I make them with my students every year, so the decor always changes depending on the student since we make the anchor charts together, and because I switch them out depending on what we're learning or what unit we're on, the decoration changes often. So it's a lot of fun to play around with decor and changing it up. Strategically choose and place motivational decor to enhance instruction. Motivational posters, you should refer to them often. So for example, before I start a lesson, and I know it's gonna be a hard one, I'm gonna say, y'all, I'm just gonna let you know ahead of time, this is gonna be a little bit of a stressful lesson, but don't worry, if you use the notes I gave you, if you use the support I gave you, if you ask me, if you ask a partner, you're good. And if you need a little extra motivational support, look up at those posters. They're there to any anytime you feel like you're falling off the horse, the motivational horse, read one of those. Or if I'm talking to a student and they're struggling with it, as I'm talking to them and I'm providing them, I also refer to the poster. While implementing color psychology into the classroom isn't the end all or be all of engagement strategy, it does help create an environment that fosters learning and education and growing our minds. So why not use every advantage possible, especially when you're a new teacher? Or any teacher, you want to make sure you use every advantage possible. So if you can create a space that is more conducive to learning, that will help your pedagogy that much more, then definitely do it. Another effective color is green, which leads me to the next psychological trick, which is bringing the outside in. I'm going to share 8 ways you can incorporate plants into your classroom, because a 2014 University of Exeter study found that adding plants to office environments increased productivity by 15%. The presence of greenery made employees more physically, cognitively, and emotionally involved in their work, leading to better performance and well-being. These effects are exactly what we want for our students. If companies invest in plants for productivity, then having them in my classroom seems like a no-brainer. Here are 8 ways you can incorporate plants into your classroom. Posters. I inherited some from the previous teacher, but you can find great ones on Etsy and Amazon, or just make your own. Backdrops. I used one with planters and a tropical landscape to foster a lively, creative space. Borders. I accented the anchor chart and thinking map wall with this cute cacti and succulent pattern border. Indoor plants. I use succulents, a snake plant, and a pathos plant, which I keep at home during the summer, but place in my classroom during the school year. Consider real plants for their biological benefits, like removing toxins from the air. Down below, I linked an article that lists low-cost, low-maintenance houseplants. I plan to use taller plants in the classroom. I just don't know which one to choose. So if you have any recommendations, let me know down below. You can also plant some with your students and watch them grow throughout the year, or you can get real fancy like some of these teachers on Pinterest who have created these elaborate trees and fun naturescapes inside of their classroom. That is super cute. However, as a new teacher, I suggest that you reserve your bandwidth for the most important tasks. And building a treescape, I would not consider the most important task. But if you're super creative and you love creating those things in your classroom, totally fine, you can do that. But again, I suggest you settle in first, get your bearings on the more pressing issues, and then come back to redecorate. I have never considered this next strategy until I watched a video from the YouTube channel Food Theory. The video explains how companies use one of our senses to influence spend. After the video, I was inspired to make a productivity radio to model the flavor radio that they talked about in the video. This concept, called flavor radio, started when a Dunkin' Donuts in Seoul increased sales by 29% by releasing coffee and donut scents on buses. The video went on to explain how other companies spent upwards of $25,000 for customizing aromas to spray in their businesses. And Sony specifically uses a combination of citrus and vanilla in their stores to entice us to spend more money and buy more TVs. Since I don't have a $25,000 budget, nor am I selling TVs or donuts, I did a little bit of research to find which smells boost productivity, and these are it: peppermint, lemon, lavender, and cinnamon. But before implementing this strategy, I have to check with my district that it's okay to emit smells, or what ways that I can emit smells, because they might not let you, like for example, in my district, I can't use plugins nor candles, but also we might not be able to do that because of allergy. So double check with your district. I will do the same. I hope that we do, because if we are allowed to, this is how I intend on using them. Peppermint, I intend to use during tests for alertness. Lemon in the mornings for a mood boost. Lavender in the library for calmness, and cinnamon during group activities for focus. It might not be a good idea to emit all of these smells at one time, so use your discernment when you use this strategy. Implementing these strategies can create a classroom that is both conducive to learning and conducive to productivity. So why not use every available tool possible, especially as a new teacher when there's so much to think about? Might as well use science to help us. Since our physical classroom is only one area that we have to concern ourselves with teaching, click this video next to find out how I use the summer to plan for the following school year.